Writing. The moment she removed the helmet, that's when I realized this was no longer just royal training. Because the expression on Princess Leonor's face after flying the F-5 fighter jet wasn't excitement. It wasn't fear either, it was concentration, almost like she had just crossed some invisible line the public wasn't supposed to notice yet. And honestly, I think Spain noticed it immediately. Not because of the aircraft itself, but because this suddenly made Leonor look less like a protected princess, and more like someone preparing for pressure most people her age could never handle. That's the real story here. Not the jet, not the photos, not even the military uniform. It's the shift in perception. And I don't think enough people understand how important that shift is for the Spanish monarchy right now. Because while Prince William and Kate Middleton are still presenting that polished, future king and queen image in Britain, Leonor is building something different entirely in Spain. She's building credibility through pressure. And whether you support monarchy or not, that strategy is honestly genius. Because let's be real for a second. Most young royals today are photographed walking into galas, charity dinners, or ceremonies. Leonor is being photographed climbing into fighter jets. That changes the emotional reaction people have toward her instantly. And here's my hot take. I actually think the palace wants people to stop seeing her as just a princess. That's why these military moments are becoming more intense, more public, and honestly, more cinematic. The palace understands modern attention spans. They know a balcony wave doesn't go viral anymore. Discipline does. Transformation does. Pressure does. And before we go deeper into this, if you're new to Leonor's story, subscribe, I post every day. Because I have to say this. The timing of these F-5 images feels very intentional. Very intentional. Whenever royal institutions start losing emotional connection with younger audiences, they usually respond with visibility campaigns. More appearances, more interviews, more family moments. But Spain seems to be trying something smarter. Instead of saying, please admire the princess, they're saying, watch her earn it. That's a completely different psychological strategy. And honestly, it's working. You can feel it online. People who never cared about royalty are suddenly talking about Leonor because military training creates something modern audiences crave, a storyline. Not status, not titles, a storyline. That's why I keep saying Leonor's rise feels more like a Netflix character arc than traditional monarchy. Every few months, there's another stage. The academy, the discipline, the separation from palace comfort, the military drills, and now, the fighter jet. Each step feels like progression. And audiences love progression. Even Mr. Beast understands this concept better than most media companies. The audience doesn't connect to perfection. They connect to challenge and transformation. That's exactly what the Spanish monarchy is selling right now, transformation. But here's the part one find fascinating. The hidden message behind the F-5 flight isn't confidence. It's sacrifice. And I think people are missing that completely. Because the palace could easily protect Leonor from difficult situations. They could keep her inside ceremonial appearances forever. Instead, they're deliberately placing her inside environments that test endurance, discipline, and emotional control. Why? Because modern monarchies have a legitimacy problem. That's the uncomfortable truth nobody says directly. Titles alone don't automatically command respect anymore in 2026. Publics want proof. Proof that you understand responsibility. Proof that you can function under pressure. Proof that you're more than a symbol. And honestly, flying an F-5 fighter jet sends that message more effectively than 1,000 speeches ever could. Now personally, I noticed something else after watching reactions online. Some people are beginning to compare Leonor to her father, King Felipe VI, in a much more serious way now. Not emotionally, not visually, institutionally. That's important, because for years, Leonor was viewed as the future. Now she's starting to look like the successor. Big difference. One sounds distant, the other sounds real, and I think the palace understands how dangerous and powerful that transition can become. Because once the public starts seeing someone as a future ruler emotionally, expectations explode overnight. Every movement becomes symbolic, every expression gets analyzed, every small mistake becomes international discussion. Honestly, I wouldn't even say the fighter jet is the hardest part of Leonor's journey. The expectations are. Imagine being watched constantly while trying to prove you deserve your future role. That pressure must be unbelievable. And maybe that's why I found one specific detail so interesting after the flight. Leonor didn't overreact for the cameras. No dramatic celebration, no celebrity energy. No, look at me, moment. Just composure. That restraint actually made the moment feel more authentic. And authenticity is becoming incredibly rare online. Especially in royal coverage. Everything today feels overproduced, overmanaged, overfiltered. But military environments are harder to fake. That's why this content performs differently. People subconsciously trust struggle more than polished image campaigns. And here's where I think Spain may actually be ahead of other monarchies right now. They're not trying to modernize Leonor by making her relatable in the social media influencer sense. They're modernizing her through visible discipline. Huge difference. One creates temporary popularity, the other creates long-term credibility. And honestly, that's smarter, because trends disappear fast, but public respect built through sacrifice lasts longer. Now let me say something slightly controversial. I think some traditional royal commentators are quietly uncomfortable with how militarized Leonor's image is becoming. You can almost feel it in certain articles. There's this underlying nervousness. Should a future queen be associated this closely with military symbolism? But personally, I think those critics are misunderstanding the strategy completely. This isn't about militarizing the monarchy. It's about grounding it. The palace wants Leonor associated with service, endurance, preparation, structure, not just privilege. And in a time where institutions everywhere are struggling with trust, that matters a lot. Honestly, sometimes I think the Spanish monarchy studied what younger audiences admire online and adapted accordingly. People today admire consistency, effort, discipline, mental toughness. That's why clips of athletes training go viral. That's why, day in the life, grind content explodes online. And weirdly enough, Leonor's military training taps into that same psychology. She's becoming aspirational through effort, not luxury. That changes everything. And can we talk about how risky this strategy also is? Because once you build an image around competence and discipline, the public becomes less forgiving. If Leonor makes mistakes later, people will judge them more harshly because expectations are now higher. That's the hidden cost. The stronger the image, the heavier the pressure. And honestly, I think the palace knows that. But they've decided the risk is worth it. Because right now, visibility without respect is useless for modern royalty. And this F5 moment generates respect. Even from critics. That's rare. I also think this explains why Leonor's story is spreading far beyond Spain now. People aren't just watching royal gossip anymore. They're watching a transformation story in real time. A young woman moving from protected air, into someone carrying visible national expectations. That's compelling even if you don't care about monarchy. And maybe that's why this moment feels bigger than headlines are admitting. Because this wasn't just Princess flies fighter jet. This was the future queen entered a completely different phase. And I genuinely think the palace wanted the public to feel that shift emotionally. Not through speeches, through imagery, through pressure, through symbolism. Honestly, if you ask me what I learned from this whole situation, it's this. Modern monarchy survives when people believe the next generation understands sacrifice. Not luxury, not protocol, sacrifice. And whether someone loves the monarchy or hates it, the image of Leonor stepping out after flying an F-5 fighter jet sends one very clear message. Spain is preparing her for something much bigger than ceremony. And for the first time in a long time, people are starting to believe it. Did you like this feature?